All right, good afternoon and welcome to the 2024 Safe Routes to School Signs and Lines and Infrastructure Program Launch Informational Webinar. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Safe Routes to School website very shortly. Thank you for being here today and spending time with us. My name is Rachel O'Donnell, and I'm the Program Director for the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program. I'm joined today by Miranda Briseno and Michael Trepanier from MassDOT. Just a few housekeeping items. Please keep yourself muted until Q&A. Live transcript is available for this meeting, which can be turned on with your Zoom controls. Leon, our operations manager, is available to help with any tech questions. Today's webinar will cover the following topics, and keep in mind that throughout the presentation, we will sometimes use the acronym SRTS for Safe Routes to School. We will first review the 2 grants launching today, and then we're going to go into further detail on each grant's eligibility, funding, and application process and timeline. We are also excited to talk about our technical assistance program for the infrastructure application. And lastly, we will take questions live and in the chat. I'm now going to ask Leon to upload a PDF of this presentation into the chat that you can reference after the webinar. We do have 2 types of grants available within the Massachusetts Safe Routes to School program. Our Signs and Lines grants are reimbursement-based and provide up to $10,000 to improve signage and pavement markings within a half a mile of a Safe Routes to School partner school. We will be awarding up to 5 grants for the school year, and as a reminder, these are quick build projects that must be completed by June 30th, 2025 to be eligible for reimbursement. Our infrastructure grants are for much larger projects and span from $300,000 to over $2 million.
Trying here. I'm trying each one.
Our infrastructure grants are for much larger projects and span from $300,000 to over $2 million. They also typically have a longer timeline as they go through the complete project initiation process with MassDOT. Since program inception, going back more than 10 years, 84 projects have been completed or are in progress. We do plan to award up to 10 projects for this round of applications. On this slide, we've provided some of the online resources we will mention throughout the presentation. All of these hyperlinks are active in the PDF of the presentation that Leon did upload a few moments ago. And now let's start with Signs and Lines in their application process. The details of what's covered in the guidance document for Signs and Lines include program and project eligibility, the application process, a sample timeline, and planning for success. So Leon, do you mind pasting the application guidance document in the chat right now? And he's also going to paste the Excel application as well. So for eligibility, program eligibility versus project eligibility, for program eligibility, municipalities must sign a Memorandum of Understanding or MOU. Schools must be a Safe Routes to School partner for at least 6 months as of today. So back in about March 4th of 2024. And schools must be actively engaged with the Safe Routes to School program. So the non-infrastructure side. Eligible projects mean signage and pavement markings to improve safety and accessibility along key walking, biking, and rolling routes. Projects must be within a half a mile of that partner school. The public school must serve students in any grades K through 12, and the project must be within the public right-of-way or any bicycle or pedestrian pathway or trail. So making sure also that you have both the community support and also the school support. The intent of the program is to maximize the use of funds by adding new signage, removing outdated or extraneous signage, and restriping crosswalks or adding other pavement markings in conjunction with optimizing the current arrival and dismissal procedures. These projects are not intended to pay for one singular item, like a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. These projects do not cover making crosswalks ADA compliant. Crosswalks that need restriping should already have curb cuts and ADA tactile warning pads. In the past, we have seen municipalities commit extra resources to ensure the crosswalks are compliant, and then they do get reimbursed for the painting of that crosswalk. I also want to note that we have had school districts utilize $10,000 across multiple schools in their district, and we found that it really dilutes the effect that we're trying to have with these projects. We highly recommend that you focus your application on one particular school or location that needs the most assistance. The application is completed in a simple Excel form and must be submitted back in Excel. It is in 3 parts, with Part A asking for municipality and school information. Part B explores Safe Routes to School partnership information and the school's involvement in the program. And I want to stress that this application requires both a municipal and school applicant. Both parties need to be aware and in support of the grant application. The municipal contact really should be someone from DPW or engineering who can commit the resources on behalf of the municipality and ensure the project is completed. Part C covers the project information, including the current number of walkers, bikers, and rollers. We're looking for specific project details on how this grant can improve safety and mobility for your students. In addition, we strongly encourage including letters of support from the community, municipality, or the school committee, parent-teacher organization. These are just a few examples. Adding Safe Routes to School deliverables such as family travel survey results, student radius maps, and arrival dismissal reports or walk bike audit reports are also a plus. These are the checkboxes directly from the Excel application. They need to be acknowledged by the applicants before signing the application. The deadline for submissions is October 4th at 5 p.m., exactly 30 days from today. The rubric in the guidance document shows that all points come from sections B and C with a maximum score of 100. All applicants will be notified of their grant status, and those selected will immediately be contacted to schedule a project development meeting. As I've mentioned before, this is a reimbursement-based grant. All work must be done by the municipality before June 30th, 2025. They will be reimbursed up to $10,000 for the eligible work done. We've provided a sample project budget for signs and lines, which can also be found in the guidance document. Since the municipalities are responsible for getting the work done, there's definitely some flexibility in the pricing based on their local resources, such as an in-house painter or any other internal resources you might have. We've also provided a sample timeline of the dates and deadlines for the grant. Our goal is to have our site visits completed before the holidays and plan sets delivered in February, giving the municipalities plenty of time to order signs, posts, and contract for pavement markings in preparation for that spring construction season. So planning for success. How can you have a successful application and a successful project? So please consider all of these stakeholders, involve the school principal to get that school information, or the school district, facilities department where it's applicable. Have the school district's assistant superintendent for business and finance, or other Safe Routes to School representatives if there's a task force in your community. For the municipality side, definitely the Department of Engineering or Public Works, someone who can help with seeing the project through to completion. Occasionally involving the MassDOT district office staff is important, and any local MPOs. So those initial kickoff meetings and walk audits should be attended in person or virtually by all stakeholders. And then an approved arrival and dismissal plan with the proposed infrastructure design should be agreed upon by both the school and the municipality. Other things to keep in mind is that the school and municipality need to be the ones to communicate all changes to the community. And it's important that municipal staff will need to bring changes requiring council or board approval, such as altering the directionality of streets or removal of parking spaces, to that governing body. So is that a board of selectmen, mayor, any kind of governing body that will require that approval. The municipality should provide Safe Routes to School with a GIS base layer for the project area if that's available. Safe Routes to School will not develop a plan set with more than $10,000 in estimated required improvements and can only provide one round of edits on the plan set. When proposing the project, please keep in mind the long-term viability of the project at that proposed location. So if you think that there's going to be any kind of school closure or relocation, or you think that those signs might need to get moved down the line, please make sure that it stays within a school zone. Municipal-owned roadways are the preferred project location due to the added layer of MassDOT permitting on state-owned roadways. So please keep that in mind when you're submitting your application. And if you are selected, definitely build in that buffer to get that permitting straightened out before construction begins. And now I'm going to turn the presentation over to Miranda to review eligible applicants and eligible projects for the Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Funding Program. Everything we review in this section is in the infrastructure guidance document, so make sure you download that from the chat or the website. I think Leon's going to put that in the chat right now, but without further ado, take it away, Miranda.
Thanks, Rachel. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Miranda Briseno. I'm the Federal Programs Coordinator in the Office of Transportation Planning for MassDOT, and I'm the Contract Manager for the Safe Routes to School program. So some notes on eligible applicants for the infrastructure program. K through 12 schools that fulfill the following. They have a partnership with the Safe Routes to School program for at least 6 months. So as of today, schools should be partners with the program. They need to be receiving public funding, so public schools or charter schools, and are committed to ongoing Safe Routes to Schools activity. So in the application, you can outline part of the school's participation in different events and what they've done to promote the Safe Routes to School goals. And particularly, we like to see applications from schools that represent a diverse socioeconomic community, and take that into consideration when we review applications. Some eligible projects that can be funded through this program include the transportation, construction, and capital improvement projects that meet the following requirements. They will improve safety and or increase the number of children walking and biking to school, are located within 2 miles of a K-12 school or school campus, and are within the public right-of-way or a bicycle pedestrian pathway. The K-12 students must be the primary beneficiaries of the project, and the project needs to be ADA accessible. Projects that will not be funded under this program: any recurring costs, such as pavement maintenance, any travel lane improvements. Like we've said before, this program is focused on improving the walking, biking, and rolling infrastructure that exists around the school, so we will not be widening or adding any travel lanes or any other improvements that are focused only on motor vehicles. And school bus improvement projects are also not eligible under this program. Some examples of eligible projects: sidewalk improvements. This could be the widening and improvement of a sidewalk to be ADA compliant, or the installation of a new sidewalk. Traffic calming in and around a school to slow down motor vehicle speeds and make it safer for students walking and biking and rolling. Crossing improvements to improve visibility, and the addition or installation of bicycle facilities in and around the school. So what is covered under the project program? This program provides funding for design and construction. There's no match required. MassDOT provides the match. So we have funding from the Federal Highway Transportation Alternatives Program, and this covers both the design and construction costs. And the projects that are selected will get programmed onto the State Transportation Improvement Program and follow all federal and contracting guidelines and requirements. We have 3 buckets of the project types: the small project budget, the medium project budget, and the large project budget. We do want to stress that the sample budget that we have in the guidance, these are estimates, and the true cost of the projects are subject to change. The costs that we estimate at the time of the project application don't necessarily include all the right-of-way permitting that's required and temporary or permanent acquisitions. Any of those costs will be under right-of-way will be responsibility of the municipality, which is something that we walk through applicants that are selected ahead of time, so you can understand what you're taking on as the municipality if you are selected for the program. Some new things this year: we're going to be piloting a more phased approach to project selection. So before projects are officially selected, we will sort of shortlist a handful of projects and conduct either virtual desktop review of the project area or an informal in-person site visit to ensure the viability of the project, that it meets all the goals of the Safe Routes to School program, and to meet with the municipality to ensure that they understand their role in the project. The goal of this new phased approach is to identify any potential issues ahead of time that may make the project excuse me, ineligible or infeasible for the Safe Routes program. So we just want to get ahead of identifying this project actually makes more sense as a trails project or as a phase project under a different MassDOT program. And we just want to get ahead of that so that we don't get too far in the process and don't want to waste anyone's time. So now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Michael to talk about MassDOT's vision and goals for the Safe Routes to School program and what makes a good Safe Routes to School project.
Great, thanks a lot, Miranda. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today, and really excited to see this kick off today. I'm going to be talking about some other project considerations and issues that we address during that sort of new approach that we're going to be taking around looking at feasibility and application of MassDOT's design criteria and how these projects need to comply with all of our user accommodation requirements. So first of all, I think this was already stated a bit earlier, but just to stress the point that every project that comes through MassDOT's pipeline has to meet all ADA, Americans with Disability Act accessibility requirements, and potentially in the future may even need to meet the new PROAG requirements, which are going to be a little more robust than our current ADA requirements. And in addition, have to meet our controlling criteria and design justification process. That is sort of the directives and criteria that describe the widths and facility types for people walking, biking, rolling. Again, just to reiterate, our infrastructure projects really need to meet the objectives of the Safe Routes to School program to the extent possible. Sometimes we have some flexibility and wiggle room based on the need and the context, and that's a lot of what we're going to be looking at during that first shortlist phase. But the real takeaway here is that we need to include accommodations for people walking and biking. In urban areas, we're looking for sidewalks on both sides of the street. We're looking for projects that include marked or separated bike lanes or shared use paths, at least on one side of the road, and trying to get beyond the just the single mode and really making sure we're increasing that ability for students, parents, others attending and going to school to be able to take advantage of a non-auto mode. So to that end, just to say it quite explicitly, we no longer see share the road arrows or shared lane markings as a bicycle facility. That is something that I think as we've transitioned to our sort of next generation new take on multimodal accommodation for people walking and biking, it just doesn't fit the bill anymore. And in some cases, we recommend not including them rather than including them. The other big consideration is that we're looking to complete the street network with infrastructure projects so that the network around the school is connected to the school. As in, we wouldn't really be terribly supportive of a infrastructure project on a road that then has to connect to a more busy, say a local road or a collector that connects to a more busy arterial that doesn't have safe accommodation. So we'd be looking at that primary road first and then going to the secondary and just sort of marching down to where students actually live. And we're really asking you to tell us a compelling story in this way. How will your project increase walking, biking, and rolling to and from the school? And more importantly, I think in this sort of new iteration of our process, ask yourself if you're open to scope changes based on our findings and recommendations. A number of different processes inside MassDOT review process and future design requirements really will cause a project to become more than what a Safe Routes infrastructure investment can support. And we're really doing everything we can in these early stages to identify those risks to a Safe Routes project. And as Miranda said earlier, we have lots of different municipal funding programs that support all kinds of projects around complete streets, shared streets. We have a new systemic safety program we're kicking off. And of course, there's the federal Safe Streets for All program. And of course, our longstanding statewide trails program. We're here to help you try and figure out what is the best fit for your project. And if not in Safe Routes, we'll be offering recommendations based on site, context, need, and ultimate project purpose to help steer to maybe a better fit or adjust what was originally envisioned in the application to better meet our mutual sort of goals for implementing infrastructure and projects that improve walking and biking while keeping it within the eligible activities of the Safe Routes program. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Miranda. We really appreciate those words of wisdom. But now we'll actually get into the actual application tool where you will be filling everything out. The application is available in MapIt. So that's MassDOT's project intake tool. We do have a list of MapIt account holders, so please reach out to us if you need to know who in your municipality has an account, or if you already have an existing one. So once you have an account, you're going to log into the Safe Routes to School MapIt application with your credentials. Before I move on to the application, I do want to let you know that if you had previously created an application in MapIt for the Safe Routes to School program, either in 2022 or 2023, that was not selected to move forward, you do have the option of updating the previously submitted application in MapIt, so you don't have to start all over. If you would like to modify an existing application and then resubmit it, please email Miranda. Her email is on the screen if you need it. Also, you can reach out to me afterwards to have the application returned to you in MapIt. The original author of the application must continue with the application. So if you need the application moved to a different contact within the municipality, that is also something you can reach out to Miranda about with the name and email address of that new contact and confirm that they have that MapIt login. Once you are in the Safe Routes to School application, you will click Initiate Workflow in the upper right-hand corner. We do recommend setting aside some time to fill out the application in its entirety rather than doing it in chunks at different times. This reduces the chance of lost work or potential glitches, and then having everything you need ahead of time rather than waiting until you've started the application is key. So please review the guidance document before beginning your project application. A lot of your questions can be answered in this resource, and it will help step you through the application process. The start of the application process includes entering some basic project information, starting with the applicant information, so project name, date, municipality, and school district. Please follow the naming conventions in the directions for your project name. Then you have your municipal contact information followed by the scope of work, and that should be very brief. Something like installing 200 feet of sidewalk along Maple Avenue from Elm Street to Pine Street, or installing pedestrian warning flashing assemblies at Maple and Pine, and installing new ADA ramps and crosswalks at all 3 intersections. Next, it will ask you to enter a desired start date for your construction. As you will see in the timeline towards the end of the presentation, these projects do take a bit of time to get going. So you can put the date of the application in this section, or you have complementary projects starting around a certain time, you can put in that date as well. Make sure you click Save and then Next to move on to the next section. The next section is called sketching. And so you will select the polygon sketching tool shown near the top of the screen. You're going to draw a polygon around the project on the map showing the limits of the project. So you can use your left mouse click to add vertices and double click to finish. Please ensure that the project limits are mapped as closely to the project limits as possible. The polygon should only encompass areas where infrastructure project work is intended to take place. And once that polygon is drawn, a window to select routes will appear displaying roads that intersect with that polygon or within the polygon. You can uncheck any roads you do not wish to include in this window, and then you click Select to continue. The project must be within 2 miles of a public K-12 school. So then once you've done that, click Save and Next to move on to the next step. The only action required in step 4 is to click the button Start Geoprocessing. The application will automatically intersect the project polygon with the pre-configured layers that can be used during application review. Text will begin to appear beneath the Start Geoprocessing button. Can take about 1 to 2 minutes or longer depending on your connection speed. And the intersecting layers will be highlighted in yellow. When the geoprocessing is complete, the page will say succeeded along with the time it succeeded along the bottom of the window. Then you can hit save and next once that is completed. The next section of questions is the bulk and remainder of the application. While the majority of these questions are not technically required in the Mapit system, not answering all the questions will impact your score. So please answer all questions completely. It's very easy for us to tell when an application was just thrown together at the last minute compared to someone taking the time to draft quality answers. We will go over each section in the following slides. You can see the detailed instructions also for each question in that application guidance document that I keep referencing. Questions 1 through 17 asks more details about the school and municipal applicant. For the school applicant, provide the name of someone at the school that will be a point of contact for the project. This may be a school principal, another school administrator in a leadership role, or someone who has contact with an administrator at the school. This person may also be the main proponent of the project. For the municipal co-applicant, the municipality must not only be aware of the proposed project, but also in support of it. Each application must be associated with the municipal government. Provide the name of that municipal co-applicant. This person should have decision-making authority for local projects and preferably work within a municipal department responsible for maintaining the municipality's infrastructure. Although the appropriate co-applicant will vary by municipality, the most successful Safe Routes to School projects have buy-in from the Department of Public Works or the city or town engineering department. For advice on who to list as the co-applicant, please reach out to the city or town's Department of Public Works, engineering department, or related municipal departments with similar roles and responsibilities. Other municipal offices and officials, such as the Board of Selectmen, town manager, mayor's office, or planning department may be included in the application, but priority will be given to applicants with support from municipal departments that are directly responsible for maintaining the infrastructure. If the proposed project is selected to advance, the municipal co-applicant will be contacted to ensure support of the project. In part 1, we gather more detailed school information. You must answer whether the school is designated Title I, the percentage of students considered economically disadvantaged, basic enrollment information, and information about how students travel to and from school. Many of these questions will require the municipal applicant working with the school or district to gather details about busing, student distance to school, and mode share. There are also hyperlinks in the guidance document that will help you with some of these data points. I do want to note that in this section, we ask if there are plans for potential school closure, merge, relocation, or renovations. In the past, we have run into issues with communities not notifying us ahead of time of these changes, and it does impact that project down the line. In part 2, we get very specific about the project details. So when describing the project, please be as specific as possible, including road names, project limits, and proposed improvements. Briefly note the identified issues that will be addressed by the improvements. The project description allows for 500 words. So this is not the time to say, please see attached documents. You should be able to succinctly describe the project within 500 words. In order to find out if the proposed project is on an existing biking or walking route, you can reference the potential for everyday biking site and the potential for walkable trip site. These are links to resources in the guidance document, and this section also allows you to submit photos and renderings of the project area as well as required Safe Routes to School deliverables. We are putting a greater emphasis on providing student travel data to support not only the location of the project, but whether or not the project would actually increase walking, biking, and rolling to and from school. This data can be acquired through a Safe Routes to School family travel survey or a student radius map. Having both is great. Having one is all right, but not having any data to support your numbers in questions 23 and 26 will affect your scoring. The Safe Routes to School program can help create these maps or help facilitate the survey for the school, but all requests for this must be received within the first 7 business days of this application period. So the deadline would be Friday the 13th. Sorry, that's such an ominous date, but the school must provide a scrubbed list, meaning no names or family information, just addresses for all students enrolled in the current year. If the school recently, and by recently, I mean within the last 2 years, conducted a Safe Routes to School family travel survey, the accompanying map is sufficient to fulfill this requirement as long as the participation rate is 25% or greater. Please only submit photos, drawings, and maps in this question 30. There will be another section for you to upload other documents later on in the application. Questions in this section focus on the problems, needs, and opportunities. You will be asked to detail the main objective of the project. So for example, a lack of sidewalks or pedestrian facilities. Visit MassDOT's impact portal to gather and provide additional information for this section. To find out more about safety and a history of crashes at the project site, you can consult local police reports or go to MassDOT's interactive crash map. Links for all of these can be found in the guidance document. Community support and existing plans that support this project are also part of this section. We highly recommend that you provide letters of community support because it will strengthen your application. One thing that I would like to stress is that you do not need to have a complete solution when applying for this grant. If you have already created a conceptual design or have design plans, we will review it and see if it aligns with state and federal requirements for Safe Routes to School projects. We need to know if you are open to adjusting your plans to meet these requirements, or if you have applied for funding from other sources for this project. And it's also important to note if a portion of the project has already been funded. In addition, we do ask for a draft cost estimate. This is very high level to see if you've thought about how much a project you're proposing would entail. You can utilize the sample budgets to help customize a budget for your project, and it also must be attached as a PDF in the last question, so that's question 40. MassDOT also has a state estimating tool that is available for use. The budget and other supplemental documents like letters of support from the municipality and other stakeholders can be attached, like I said, in question 40. We also strongly encourage uploading other relevant deliverables such as Safe Routes to School arrival dismissal reports, walk bike audit reports, and if the municipality has already conducted, a separate road safety audit of the proposed project area, we recommend including that as well. Once all questions are answered, you can click the Submit for Acceptance button, but please make sure you've submitted everything before you click that button. You will not be able to make changes once it's submitted. You'll receive an email confirmation from MassDOT as a receipt of your application. The following slides detail the application evaluation. Each question and section is given a certain number of points. I'm not going to get into the details of each of these sections, but I do want to highlight that this is part of the guidance document, so you can review the scoring criteria on your own time. The next page shows part 2 and part 3 of the scoring. And then lastly, we have 2 additional scoring sections, one for the Safe Routes to School program involvement and the other for additional equity indicators. These are not part of the MAPIT application, but they are part of the scoring. And as Miranda said earlier, this year we are piloting a phased approach to this entire process, and the goal of this is to identify those potential issues ahead of time that may render a project ineligible or infeasible for the Safe Routes to School program. So therefore, the total project scores will be broken out into 2 phases. Phase 1 is the 115 points and includes the scoring rubric we just reviewed together. Phase 2 is also 115 points and will be based on a desktop or in-person review of the project area. And we're currently piloting a rubric for this phase of the scoring. On this slide, we've provided an approximate timeline for the school year and for the projects overall. Please note that these projects are typically 5 years long, with construction not even starting until 4 years after the application was accepted. And last year was actually our first year offering technical assistance, and we are excited that so many communities have already taken advantage of this service this summer to get ready for the launch of the Safe Routes to School Infrastructure Grant Program. Safe Routes to School is available year-round, but please note that now that the grants have opened, we cannot provide that same level of support that we did this summer. So if you do have a question or need clarification on something, please feel free to reach out to us. If you need something like help with acquiring that Safe Routes to School deliverable, such as the radius maps or family travel survey, those requests need to be made within the first 7 business days of the application period. We do have an FAQ sheet, or frequently asked questions sheet, available on our website. A common assumption we hear a lot is that with both grants, communities think they are, receiving a check, and that's just not the case for either grant. So please keep this in mind to see if the Safe Routes to School grants are the correct fit for your project. Just because your project is near a school doesn't automatically qualify it for a Safe Routes to School grant. And before we get into the Q&A portion of this information session, I do want to let you know about a few upcoming Safe Routes to School events. If you'd like to get more involved in the program, please reach out to us and we can connect you with your outreach coordinator. Also, please make sure to follow and like us on social media to stay up to date on news and resources. We also have a Massachusetts specific Safe Routes to School listserv that you can join, and you can also subscribe to our e-blasts and newsletters if you aren't already a part of them. And with that, I'd like to open things up for Q&A. So please place questions in the chat or raise your hand and come off mute to ask your questions. We do have a lot of people, I think, who will have questions. So just be respectful of everyone's time. We have a good, 23 minutes to ask any questions. If you think that your question does require a more in-depth discussion, you can also reach out to us afterwards via email. All right, Maggie, Leon, Diane, do you see any questions or raised hands?
I don't see any in. Oh, there's one that just came in the chat. Is the application deadline on 10/4 or 10/18? So do you want to clarify for the two grants?
Yeah, so Signs and Lines is due 10/4. The infrastructure grant, because we know the lift is a bit larger, that will be October 18th. See, Matt Chavit, you have a question? You can come off mute.
Sure. So I had a question as my town is preparing for the infrastructure grant. It isn't I went through a technical assistance call, and essentially it's kind of difficult in that our students are currently after school, they're walking to a common area, not necessarily home. And I was wondering if it's not like a satellite pickup location, is that still a good proposal to put through?
Michael or Miranda, not sure if you have any insight.
I'm going to pass that to you, Michael.
Of course. So Matt, let me just make sure I understand the question. Are you saying that there's a satellite parking area that you're trying to make a walking or biking connection to?
So we have a town common that's kind of like an after school hangout. The library is on our common.
Yeah.
So, they're not necessarily getting like picked up by parents, but, middle school students, 7th, 8th graders are, it's a popular hangout for them, at any given time, there's 25, 30 bikes on the common, especially during warm weather. So, is that, a good proposal to put forward? Because I know a lot of the focus is kind of on, commuting
to and from home. Yeah. It's funny. It's almost like transportation planning, but rather than for adults commuting to and from work, we're talking about kids commuting to and from home and making a few stops along the way. I think just based on what you're saying, if there's a potential to improve safety for and accommodation for kids on roadways where they're congregating, where there's a lot of activity, I think that sounds like an eligible activity that definitely you should consider applying for. Because, who knows where they go after that, right? Like, I would say, I think we'd have a bit of a harder time sort of making a sidewalk connection to a satellite parking area. But if it's to your town common where there's all kinds of other civic uses, that sounds like a great project.
Thank you.
Any other questions in the chat?
Yes, I've been sort of trying to answer them. The second one, and you can talk through it while I'm answering it in the chat. Is there a PDF list or map of schools that are active eligible SRTS participants? So I'm sure you're going to answer exactly what I'm putting in the chat, Rachel.
Yeah, so we do have a dashboard available on our website where you can look up your community's involvement in the program, or see what schools in your town or city are Safe Routes to School partners and see what their activity levels are. You can also connect with your outreach coordinator. I think if Diane or Maggie or Leon can put the link to our OC page in the chat, I think that would be
Yep.
helpful too.
Both are in there right now.
Excellent. I don't have chat visibility right now, so
That's
good.
okay. Yep. All right.
In my mind.
Yeah. The next question is, hi there. I'm curious if a school will need to repeat a transportation survey if less than 25% responded in the previous survey.
I would say
That I think it's
yes.
yes in the
Yeah,
guidance
because
document.
if
Yeah.
it's under 25%, it's just the data isn't viable to really get a good picture of what the patterns are for that school.
Sorry, just typing as
Yep,
I
you're
read
good.
on to the next one. Will this presentation be available if we missed it today?
So Leon, can you just put the PDF in the chat again for access? And then since we are recording this, we will put this up on our website as soon as it's done for captioning. So
Okay, I just finished updating that in the chat. Okay, thanks, Leon, too. Yep. I don't see any more in the chat right now that we haven't addressed.
all right. Well, if you think of any other questions, as you digest all this information, I know we threw a lot at you in the last 45 minutes, so take some time, think about, what we said, and then if you have questions, this week, please let us know. Just keep in mind that Friday the 13th deadline, if you need help with any kind of deliverables, the student address maps or getting a family travel survey launched, because those are definitely going to be key for this year's applications. All right. So, thank you for everyone taking the time to meet with us today. We hope that you have successful, applications. Wishing you the best of luck. And again, if you have any questions, we're only an email or phone call away. So have a good rest of your day. We'll give you back 15 minutes of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.